We are launching the book No Ghost in the Graveyard: The Lifetime Adventures of a Small Town Oregon Boy by Bob Kreitz. Welcome, everyone. In this book, Bob credits his sister Linda as being the person that encouraged him to be able to write this book. So tonight I want to start with Linda. Welcome, Linda. Thank you for being here, and thank you for encouraging Bob to write this book.
Well, I just wanted to say that the reason I was encouraging Bob so much to write his memoirs is, number one, he's really an excellent storyteller. And he's had such a varied life with so many different experiences that people love to hear about, that it needed to be put in writing. And in addition to that, he is such a talented writer. Words just flow out of him, both on paper and verbally. And I am so glad that he decided to actually put down the story of his life and unusual experiences, and even usual ones. He still has such a magical way of writing that makes them, even something as mundane as going to work, very, very interesting, just because of his creative way of thinking and writing. So finally, after my encouraging him a few times, he took it seriously. At first, he just sort of would laugh it off. But I kept after him, and I'm glad to say he finally he did it. And I think he's really pleased with that also, with the results.
The other thing that stands out is the dedication, Bob, that you did on this book. You dedicated it to your brother. Here we have the image of the dedication page that you wrote. If you could tell us a little bit why you decided to dedicate this to your brother.
Yes, I'll be glad to tell you. And looking at that and looking at my handwriting, I say I do look like I'm 80 years old. But I mean, you all know that we were triplets, and Bonnie and Dick and I all had a very special bond because of that, and a bond that's sometimes hard to put into words. But Dick, unfortunately, as I was writing this book, Dick was still alive, and we just lost Dick on July 28th, very sadly. But I think what becomes very poignant to me is that in the last weeks, couple months of his life, he would get very tired, and so it was hard for him to read the book on his own without tiring too quickly. So he enjoyed having me reading chapters to him, and whenever he was up to it, he would call me and say, "Okay, is this a good time to read to me?" And I read through the entire book to him, the entire manuscript. It wasn't in book form yet. And then he asked me to start again, and he wanted me to reread the part where we were growing up together. And he got so much enjoyment, and I got so much enjoyment out of reading to him, that it was really to me, it was a touching connection that I had with Dick there at the very end. We've had a strong connection all of our lives. I mean, like I mentioned in my book, and you'll read that. My gosh, we used to suck each other's thumbs. Mom told us as we're lying in the crib. I mean, you can't get much closer than that. And we have very different personalities. Very different outlooks on a number of things, but the strong bond that was forged in our, from the womb, throughout our life, but especially through our childhood, was just, it's hard to put words to it, for me to put words to it. But it was so strong that even with our very different political and religious views, it didn't even begin to dent the love and the trust that we had in each other. And so it just became obvious to me that I wanted to dedicate this book in the memory of Dick. At the time I made the dedication, it wasn't in the memory, but now it becomes in the memory of Dick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
So I'm really, really pleased with the cover. The old house on the front cover is the ranch house. It's the Hickathere Ranch House. My mother's maiden name was Hickathere. So it's our old ancestral home. And it plays a large role in my life and in all of my siblings' lives, as we had a very chaotic childhood. We moved on the average of once a year throughout our childhood, and that's a lot of moving for little kids and young kids. But the ranch house was always our home base, and that's where our grandma and grandpa lived. That's where my grandpa was born. I was born in the same room. Bonnie and I were born in the same room as our grandfather, Bonnie, Dick, and I. And we have a large extended family in Drain, and they're still there. Many of them are still in Drain. So not only the ranch house, but Drain was a real touch point for us in our lives. So it meant so much. And I think for my relatives, for my cousins, and my other relatives that were born in Drain or still live in Drain even, that picture evokes a lot of memory, a lot of positive memory to them. Now, the photo of the motorcycles is, I tell a story in there where we actually at age of 15, we ran away from home because we were living with an alcoholic stepfather that we despised. And where did we go? We went to the ranch house. And so that was a big event in our lives, and a very transitional event in our lives. And the title, No Ghost in the Graveyard. Well, Joe, you're the one that taught me how to, how to think about what titles might be. Trying to come up with a catchy title. Well, this is a catchy title, but it's a very accurate title too, because there's a whole chapter, and my chapters are short, but there's a chapter devoted to that, and it's called No Ghosts in the Graveyard. During the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we lived in Eugene, Oregon, and we lived at 2634 Potter Street, which is right across from the Eugene Masonic Cemetery and the Hope Abbey Mausoleum. And so one day, my dad offered us kids. Linda was too young. You'd have been having to ask a 3-year-old to go up into a graveyard at night. My triplets and my older brother, George, who was 15 months older than us, he offered us 10 cents to whomever could take a flashlight, walk up to the graveyard in the dark, sit on a tombstone, and flash the light back at us, proving that they had the courage to do that. So I'll let you read the story to find out if any of us had the courage to do that. So that there's a real graveyard, and it's a pretty cool graveyard. If you ever, those of us in Eugene, go look at it, or if you're visiting Eugene. Anyway, that's the story of the title.
I'm sure that people are gonna really, really enjoy this book. The book is definitely a must read. It's obviously for your family and friends, but I think it's of general interest because you're such a good storyteller. And we selected a few photos here that we were thinking about going through and looking at. This was one of my favorite photos. This is the one that I thought would have been a good cover photo, and then we went with the other one. But if you could tell us about this picture here, Bob.
Yes, I'm 7 years old in this photo, and that's the Hope Abbey Mausoleum in the background of the photo. That is the prominent feature of the Eugene Masonic Cemetery.
Oh, so that's where the cemetery was, right there.
That's where the cemetery was. And so we would have been standing about there when our dad, encouraged, asked which one of us, if any of us would be willing to go up there and do that. I'm standing in front of the little garage house that my dad had built that we're living in. You read about that in the book as well.
Oh, this is a great photo.
Well, this is a picture of my beautiful mother and us triplets, and my older brother George Jr. And let's see, I believe we're 4.5 months old in this picture. On mom's on the left facing you, that would be me, then Bonnie, and then Dick to the right. And sometimes Bonnie was always in the middle in the photos, but sometimes mom would change Dick to one side and me to another side. But think of being 19 years old and having a family like that already, you know.
Kids.
So she had her work cut out for her. All right. And so early in our life, our life was, as I mentioned, was really characterized by lots of change. And one of those big changing events was World War II, when my dad got drafted and went off to war in Germany. And so this photo was taken after his basic and advanced infantry training. So this is about 6 months after he was drafted, did his training, and he got a leave before he was shipped off to Germany. And I talk about some of his service in Germany. He landed in Utah Beach 4 days after the initial invasion. He survived the war, and I'll let you read the rest in the book. A very big thing in my life, a very interesting thing in my life is what I should say, was coming into contact with this young lady when she was 18 years old. And it's because I spoke Portuguese. And Jim, who was attending this meeting, and Cindy, they were very involved in her life and helping me with her. Her name is Maria Matola. She's from Mozambique. And to make a long story short, and I tell it all in the book, how I met her and what she has accomplished. But she went on to win 3 outdoor world 800 meter championships, a gold medal in the Olympics, bronze medal in the Olympics, 6 or 7 world indoor titles, and she set 3 world records. So she was pretty big. And I was instrumental to bringing her to Eugene, Springfield area, and then I became her agent for a little over 6 years. I was her agent.
Well, I just want to mention that Bob was very instrumental in the career of Maria. The Maputo Express, as they nicknamed her, she was named one of the most important athletes in the world at her time. She was named along with Lance Armstrong as in '93, I think it was, as the most important athletes in the world. And because Bob's memoir has a large ingredient of track and field, that's one of the categories that Bob put his memoir in the track and field. And I just want to mention that Bob's book, which I mean is already on Amazon, it already shot up to #1 in new releases in track and field. So it's already becoming a bestseller in its niche on Amazon.
I wonder if I'd like to back up just a little bit. Can we get Earl right? Can we get him can you put?
Hey, Bob, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, I want to introduce Earl to everybody. Earl had a real pivotal role in my life. He didn't realize it at the time, and I think he still has a hard time grasping what an important role he played in my life. Earl lives in Portland. When I started out of high school, I started my second or third job out of high school was working at Sears and Roebuck in Eugene, and Earl was in their training program, their management training program. And I had no intentions of going to college at the time, absolutely no intentions. But then I started making friends with all the part-time workers at Sears. Now Earl was not one of the part-time workers; he was a full-time worker there. But he's the one that asked me why I wasn't going to college, and he would keep asking me that. And he's the one that gave me the belief in myself that I could become a college student and become a successful college student. And it literally changed the trajectory of my life. And so Earl, I wanted people to meet you, and And I wanted to recognize you for that.
Okay. Thank you, Earl.
Come a long way.
Thank you. Well, you played a big role. You played a very big role, and we've been friends for all of these years.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's great.
I will say too that Bob has been very influential to one of my daughters. She went into the Peace Corps because of Bob.
Oh, wow. Okay, and the Peace Corps is a big part of the book. I mean, it's a very big part of Bob's life, and so therefore, of course, it's a very big part of the book, and some very interesting chapters there. I think we're actually going to have a few photos. Okay, here's a photo of the Peace Corps days right there.
Yeah.
That's a young Bob, by the way, right there.
Yeah, that's a young Bob. That's me back in 1965. I'm in Brazil, but you see the grass behind me and the cowboy there? That's Paraguay. So when I tell any of you, I served in the Peace Corps on the Paraguayan border, I mean, we were on the Paraguayan border. And I know we have a number of Peace Corps volunteer friends of mine that are in this meeting, and I want to say I don't know everybody that's joined our group, our Zoom meeting here. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you, my family, my friends, and those even of you whom I don't know personally. Thanks for being here. But I tell an interesting story, and again, I'm about this man, my partner. I'll call him Oscar, but I can't remember his name. So I'll chalk that up to age. But we had a couple interesting experiences together, and one of them was I tell a story about a failed attempt that I made in my town of Ponta Porã, Brazil, to do a restaurant inspection program, to get something like that started. I was trying to get my teeth into something, and it was a total failure, but it was an interesting failure. So I wrote it up in my book, and I'll let you read about it. And I wind my book up telling about, how I found Dalva, and
there's Dalva, by the way.
Pardon me.
I said, there's Dalva, by the way, in the picture right there, looking very.
Yes, Dalva. This is about 6 weeks after we got married. We got married on July 7th, 2000. And it's been the most wonderful experience of my life. And I talk about our life together. And I'd like to introduce Liz Pereira. I see. Can we get Liz to turn on? Betsy, can you turn on your video? Okay, that's Betsy. She's in Rio de Janeiro.
I'm sorry about the bad lightning.
No, you're fine, Betsy. Listen, this is another whole story. I met Betsy when she was 7 years old in Rio de Janeiro. She is now, what's your age, Betsy?
Now 32.
32. Okay.
I think we have a picture of Betsy while you're talking. I think we can show that. Is that the one that the little girl with her sister?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
There's Betsy when I first met her. And I haven't talked about it yet, but I formed a nonprofit called Students Helping Street Kids International. We just called it SHISKI by its acronym. And we sponsored scholarships. I got schools to sponsor scholarships for impoverished kids in Brazil and in Tanzania. And so she was the first child that I gave a scholarship to. And that picture was a picture of her looking over some pictures and things that students at Briggs Middle School in Springfield had sent to her. And
my friend is here, Priscilla. So I told her, I don't know, maybe Bobby will pick this picture from this dress. I hate it. And she's making fun of me in the direct message about the dress. And good memories. Good memories, Bob.
They are. So, you can read all about my work in that nonprofit. It was very rewarding, and the most rewarding thing is to have impacted lives like that program impacted Betch's life now. And she, by the way, spent a year in Springfield High School as a foreign exchange student.
Yes.
Well, thank you for
Can't
coming.
wait to read the book. Can't wait to read it. Nice to meet you all.
Nice meeting you, Liz. Thank you for coming to the meeting. Here, okay.
Okay, this is when I was in Guatemala, I was Associate Peace Corps Director. That's my son, Eric.
Which one is your
Orange
son?
crossed over his head, and we were in the Western Highlands of Guatemala, and we were there to participate in the celebration where one of my Peace Corps volunteers was inaugurating a gravity-fed potable water system that he had designed for this community. And Eric is a little older today. He's now the head of school at the New Mexico School of the Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Very proud of him, and my son Brian, who's and daughter-in-law, who are teachers in Bend now, and they had spent many years in Latin America, Costa Rica, Guatemala first, and then Costa Rica, and they founded a school called La Paz Community School in Costa Rica, but they just returned home a couple of years ago and are now in Bend.
Oh, cool. So
I wish I could say hi to everybody that was there, and I could see everybody who was there, but you make me very happy that you participated in this event today.
Yeah, if everybody wants to smile to the camera, I'll go ahead and take a screenshot in a few seconds. So everybody get ready.
Okay, everybody,
3,
smiling at the camera.
2, 1, 0.
And by the way, September 8th is the anniversary of the day that you arrived in Brazil for the first time, which is why you decided to do your book launch on this date in order to commemorate that important date. Thank you, Bob, for this wonderful project. And everything. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm really glad to see it come to fruition.
The interesting thing is Joe Weaver is part of my story. You read about him in my book too.
It's
I
a
met
small
him in
world.
Paraguay. I met him in Paraguay.
Yeah, right in 1964.
Yeah.
No Ghost in the Graveyard: The Lifetime Adventures of a Small Town Oregon Boy. Available on Amazon.